What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video today, and in this video we are at Sioux Falls Regional Airport for the 64th airport update for the month of May 2025. Almost halfway through the year now, which is a bit crazy to think about, but this month we've got a returning route, we've got some specials, and other fun activities happening here at the airport. A couple Allegiant aircraft in here as well, and that'll be the focus for the first part of this update as we get started at Gate 1. This Allegiant A320 just came in from Phoenix Mesa as Flight 2306, arriving in at 11:22 a.m., ahead of a scheduled 11:36 a.m. arrival. Allegiant did bring back our Los Angeles service for this summer. It just started last week on Friday the 23rd, so I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the video since I'm now starting to do my route roundups at the end of the video instead of talking about them at each aircraft. So let me know if you prefer that format or if you want me to go back to the old one talking about them at each aircraft individually if there is something significant going on. I figured it's a little bit easier for me so that there's a nice ebb and flow to the actual airport updates and all that, so let me know what you think of that. But as we move down to Gate 5B, we have our American mainline service back in action for the summer, the A319 from DFW. This ride-in is 3319 on an IAE engine variant, so once again, I ask the manufacturers to please take note of this request. I know that I'm not the only one requesting it. This ride-in a little bit delayed at 5:05 p.m., or at 5:21 p.m. delayed from a 5:05 p.m. scheduled arrival, so a 16-minute delay for that aircraft. And then there is a bit of a backwards view of this aircraft, so I'll try to swing the tripod around here to get you guys a much better view of this American Eagle CRJ 700. So American using these on the Chicago O'Hare service with a very high flight number. In this case, it is 6347, and this ride-in at 11:47 a.m. ahead of a scheduled 11:56 a.m. arrival. Now, if you remember from the massive unboxing and the fictional model airport update that I posted earlier this week and even this past weekend, I had a friend visit me, and he actually took this flight to get to Sioux Falls to meet me. So we had a lot of fun doing all kinds of fun stuff, and I'll still be working to get all the rest of that content out as we filmed a couple model comparisons, and of course that massive unboxing, and then just a long montage of plane spotting clips that we got together. So that will be coming out a little later here into June, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the channel update, which will be coming out on Sunday, the first day of June. So we're already to that halfway point of the year, and it will be time for that channel update. So now move over to the United section. We've got 3 United aircraft in this update, which I don't think I've had 3 in at least a long time now. 2 of the regionals and then a mainline to go in there. At 7B, we have the CRJ 550 from Chicago O'Hare, arriving in as Flight 4414, GO Jet operated service at 10:16 a.m. ahead of a scheduled 10:45 a.m. arrival, or is that 10:18? It should be 10:18 there, my apologies on that. Now move over to the 175 from Denver. This ride-in is Flight 5700, a SkyWest service. This flight arrived into the overnight hours of the next day, arriving in at 12:06 a.m., delayed from 11:44 p.m. scheduled arrival, 22-minute delay, and arriving past midnight, which is not a very common occurrence that I've seen here at FSD, but every now and again you'll get a flight that ends up arriving into the overnight hours of the next day, which, you know, I've taken only one of the overnight flights, or the late night flights rather, the Delta from Minneapolis, and that arrived right around midnight, I think it was, if I remember right. It's pretty close to that point, and didn't get home until the next day, which would have been like 12:30 in the morning or something like that. But that was nearly 6 years ago now when I took that trip to New York. Crazy to think it's been so long since then. Now move to the United service here at Gate 6 for mainline, the 737-700 from Chicago, so good to see this still going on. Not a very common type at FSD prior to this, but we do have it in action here. This arrived in as Flight 2113 at 9:28 p.m., heavy scheduled 9:52 p.m. arrival. And that wraps up our United section. As we move into our Delta section at Gate 4, the A319 from, in this case, it will be the Atlanta service, which is the host city for Airliners International, next month. After tomorrow will be the actual month of the show, so we're already there in that aspect as well, which is just ridiculous. Time flies when you're having fun, and certainly will fly when we're having fun at ATL for the big show, the international show, because we all know what that is. This ride in is flight 2615 at 11:12 p.m. ahead of a scheduled 11:25 p.m. arrival. And this is a matching registration in this case, November 371 November Bravo, which both Gemini and NG did for their respective releases. I know NG did two A319s. I think the first one they did, it was like 301 or something like that, 302. I don't remember the exact registration. And then the second one they did was the same registration that Gemini did. And I think that one is one of the last A319s, one of the newer ones that entered Northwest Fleet back when they took delivery of those. So good to see those still kicking around, and they will be for at least several more years. So be sure to take advantage of catching them while you still can, since once they're gone, then they're gone. So good to see Delta still taking care of them and even keeping the 29, 30-year-old airframes active and just hanging on to them, because Tech Ops just does some ungodly work on their airplanes. But there's a look at the terminal, and I'll do just a quick route roundup segment here, just kind of in the middle of this update for this month. So as I work on pulling up flight connections, we'll go over the various routes that we have covered here. So we'll start with the Chicago service, and on American will be 2 to 3 daily, all on the CRJ 700, though looks like early in the month they'll have a couple 170s in there, so the Envoy ones. They did send in the Retro 170 again recently. And then our Atlanta service, no major changes there, just the 1 daily mainline that arrives in super late and leaves super early in the morning. And then for our Phoenix Mesa service, that will be basically daily. The only day they don't serve that in June will be Tuesdays, but otherwise it is a 320 on every other day of the week. And then for our Denver service, currently that is going to be about 4 weekly and then up to 5 weekly later into June. So good to see that coming into play. And they are sending a couple 321 Neos on this service as well. Looks like, well, not predominantly on one particular day. It's just kind of a swap between the Neo and the regular A321 engine option. So that's what's going on with them for the Frontier service. And then for Denver, as always, changing between different mainline aircraft and a bunch of regional jet services. A couple CRJs, some 175s, and all that fun stuff. And in our mainline, it looks like we will have 2 daily mainline during the week and on Sundays, and then Saturdays will be 2 CRJ 700s with 1 A319. So the mainline's still consistent through the rest of June, which makes me very happy. Our Phoenix Sky Harbor service, also on American, the 1 daily CRJ 700 still coming on strong. And then our LAX service, twice weekly, Monday, Friday, that ends in August. So again, that summer seasonal service coming into play there. Vegas on Allegiant, that is going to be 4 weekly later into June, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and a Saturday service in there as well. These ads are getting in my way. I should just get one of the premium accounts they have on this website. Minneapolis, A319 mainline, and then CRJ 900s, 175s. No major changes there. And then as for our Florida services, right now we just have Tampa, St. Petersburg, 2 daily, or 2 weekly, Wednesday, Saturday, and then Orlando, Sanford, Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Mixture of the Airbus family aircraft. No Maxes on there. And we'll get started with that Allegiant Max 8 to resume this update. And there it is, right there. And this is another registration match, November 810 Mike Golf, which is the same one that Gemini did, the first Allegiant Max 8 that surfaced, but I think it was 812 November Victor. That was the first one actually delivered to Allegiant a little later on. But this one is in revenue service now, which is great. Allegiant Max 8, in this case, this came in from St. Petersburg, so they have swapped in the Max 8s occasionally on this service. This ride-in is flight 988 at 6:09 p.m. ahead of a scheduled 6:26 p.m. arrival. 1 departing aircraft for this update. There it is, the Delta Connection number 175 with the enhanced swinglets, so able to get the Delta Connection service in here from, or heading to Minneapolis. This is departing as flight 3539, SkyWest service, departing 25 minutes behind schedule at 11:21 a.m. So that is what's going on there. And then for the final aircraft, in this case, we do have our Midwest Honor flights. So these are the PSA and the Piedmont Heritage A321s. And it's just so cool that they actually got 2 of these special liveries on the 2 Midwest Honor flights that they did out of FSD for May. So the Piedmont, That came in on Tuesday, May 20th, and then the PSA was Tuesday, May 6th. So just 2 weeks apart that both of these aircraft came in. And I remember just seeing it on the schedule. I was like, oh my god, they actually got the specials on the Midwest Honor flights this time around, since it's always been just a regular 321 mixture between the IAE fence tips and the CFM LUS ones. So they've switched between those occasionally, but now we've got the actual heritage aircraft in here. So the Piedmont, which I spotted Tuesday, May 20th, so that marks my second time catching it. Previously, I spotted it in Nashville on that Florida excursion trip. And then the PSA, that was my first time seeing that aircraft as well, despite the poor lighting conditions I got it in. But it's the thought that counts, so I was able to get a good photo of it, at least a respectable one at that. So happy to get that checked off. So with me having seen Allegheny twice on that Florida excursion, that means I only have America West left to see, since I have seen the U.S. Airways Heritage one, Charlotte many, many years ago, and then I saw it in Dallas 2 years ago now. So that, my friends, is our FSD update this month. Number 64 in the series, so we have made it all the way to this number, and still going to continue all the way, as far as we can go, until I absolutely cannot do this anymore, which hopefully is not in the very near future. Great update for sure, with all the variety that we have in here, the different regional services, the mainline, the Midwest Honor Flight Heritage aircraft, the PSA, and the Piedmont. Still hoping that they get the Flagship Valor Medal of Honor A321 in there, but I'm very happy that they at least got the Heritage aircraft on the 2 times that they've sent in a mission, sent out a mission to Washington Reagan. And their next mission, I know that one's going to be down in Sioux City, and I think their next one out of FSD will be in the fall, so we'll be sure to cover that when that comes around later in 2025. But it's great to see that type of stuff to honor our veterans and give them one final tour of honor to honor their service and give them that tour that they deserve, because they have served for our country, protecting our way of life and making sure that we have the freedoms that we have to enable us to do whatever it is that we want to do. You know, me making YouTube videos, even though that's not really a huge thing in the grand scheme of things, but even for something like that, to have an internet platform to make whatever content I want, certainly an honor to have those veterans that have served for our country in years past, and even those that are currently serving as well, which, again, thank you to all of those, because you deserve the utmost respect from all of us. So that will conclude this month's Sioux Falls Airport Update. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.